Robolawyer and we've just been looking at a very old book on marriage. In fact, I think we'll put it down. We'll put it down for a moment, hey, Robolawyer. In this book about matrimonial causes and the laws relating to marriage and divorce, a very thick book. It's got chapters on matrimonial offences. So that sounds a bit like the criminal law, doesn't it, Robolawyer, if we're talking about offences? And very serious topics, because in days gone by, in the olden days, Robolawyer, that was way back in the 1960s, last century, right up to 1975, getting a divorce was a fairly involved sort of process, because one had to establish matrimonial fault, and even if one were able to establish matrimonial fault, there was no guarantee that the court would necessarily grant the divorce. That all changed in Australia with the introduction of the Family Law Act, and in fact, as you'll see this week, we look at the law relating to marriage and divorce, and you see that there's only now one ground for granting a divorce in Australia, and that's the irretrievable breakdown of the marriage, and that's evidenced by 12 months separation. So in a way, the family law has changed quite a lot. And even when the Family Law Act came, gee, you look smart this week, Robo. That's because you're up on YouTube as well. Yes, we're reaching a wider audience. Yes, I don't know how many people are looking at us. Yes, but now back to our family law topic. Marriage, law relating to marriage is now governed by Commonwealth law, and the Constitution actually gave that as a power to the Commonwealth to make laws about marriage, but previously each state had its own laws about marriage, and there were restrictions on whom one could marry. Yes. Oh, well, that's right, Robolawyer. Yes, there are still restrictions on whom one can marry today, but yes, people do still have to be of different genders. You've got to have a boy and a girl to get married. Yes, I know there are moves around the world which recognise and give legal recognition to other sorts of relationships. The UK's got the Civil Partnership Act, and it's almost it virtually mirrors the law relating to marriage, except that the two partners are of the same gender. Yes. No, Robolawyer, you cannot be married and then go and have a civil partnership in the UK. So you can't have a wife and a of the opposite gender and a concubine, Robo, of the same gender. If you want to form a civil partnership, you have to be divorced. You have to have ended any previous civil partnership you may have had. So yes, essentially one has to be single. So yes, the law is changing, but what we look at is fairly much the mechanics of it this week. We look at the ages, we look at what the relationships which are prohibited. Yes, in some states, yes, there used to be a lot of prohibited relationships. So see if I can find it here. No, I can't find it. It's in the other book. The other book over here. What do we call this one? The Amorous Antics of Old England. And that's got sections on marriage in it too, about selling wives and selling husbands, and because in the really, really olden days, the law relating to marriage was more important for the upper classes. And if people want to know more about that, they should see the video from last year, where that was the one where you were wearing ears, that one, because we talk about the rules relating to why the upper classes were so concerned about marriage. And it wasn't necessarily for love, it was to do with inheritance of property. But look, it used to be that a person couldn't get married either because they were closely related by blood, called consanguinity, and they were, if you couldn't marry your mother or your father or your sister or things like that, and that you couldn't marry your father's sister or mother's sister, so yes, or affinity, and that people one was already had been married. Well, I'll start that again, won't I? They were people whom one had been or was related to through marriage. For example, one couldn't marry one's son's wife or your son's wife or your grandmother's husband, and those sorts of things. A marriage of a man is prohibited if the woman is or has been his wife's mother, his wife's grandmother, wife's daughter, wife's son's daughter, father's wife, grandfather's wife. So there was no necessary any blood relationship, which was just because people had been married in a relationship which was very close previously. Yes, so what we look at this week is the rules relating to marriage, the rules relating to divorce. We also have a look at the Family Law Act, and gee, that piece of legislation, it changes all the time. Yes, it does, Robo. It changes all the time. And yes, you know the assignments are going to be due soon. Yes, if you want an extension, that's right, don't call me. Go to the faculty web page, click on Info for Students, and follow the directions there. You fill out an assignment extension form. Yes, Robo, look, if you've finished your Part A and you still send that in, even if you're wanting an extension for your Part B. But look, people shouldn't worry too much about it, should they? No. Okay, well, I think we'll leave it there for this week. It's been a long time making this video, hasn't it? Yes. Say goodbye, Robolawyer. Yes. I'm going to stop it now, Robo. I'm going to stop it and we'll leave it. Okay, and we'll be back next week to talk about other aspects of marriage. Yeah.